I am talking today with Whitney Jarrard, author of our new book, Stories of an Alcoholic's Daughter, How I Chose a Different Way. Whitney, it's so good to see you today.
It's so great to see you as well, Liz. Thank you so much for having me.
So I'd love to hear from you what inspired you to write your story.
Yeah, the inspiration came from my experience growing up with an alcoholic and just how it shifted the course of not only mine, but my family's life as well. And the inspiration also drew from my dad, whom wrote a letter while he was in rehab. And so that's kind of like the biggest inspiration behind how the book was created. But I really did want to um, share my story or versions of stories of like an what it can be like to live with an alcoholic because I know how it changed and shifted my life. And I want others that are going through the same thing, to resonate with my book and to know that there are choices. And I just wanted to let people that are going through the same thing know that they're not out there alone, that there are other people and that, yeah, they can lean on or knowing that they're just not alone through
Mm,
this.
mm. And I know now you're married, you have kids, right? And are there things that you'd like to share? Like, how did you step into who you are now? How did you
Yeah,
choose that? Like,
yeah,
what was this like for you?
absolutely. I think I grew up truly with, well, like the first little bit of my life, I should say, truly was picture perfect. I really did. Like, both my parents were amazing. I had great sets of grandparents, cousins, a brother, like all of those wonderful things for the family dynamic. And then when my dad became an alcoholic, and you could really feel the tension of our family dynamics shifting. And then, when everything did start to go downhill, my parents got their divorce, and then my dad was no longer present in my life. It left this void in me. And I think now, like being a parent, it made me like, it just always has made me wonder, like, how did my dad leave the family? I mean, he was really close with my brother, I should say, but I think for me, like, how did he choose one child over the other? Maybe not necessarily choose, but it was, I he and I just grew apart, and I felt like I was left behind, and I that left a void in me. And just not having a dad pretty much for a good chunk of my life, being present just being there for all the activities and events. And so becoming a parent now to my boys, I think that it has made me be a better parent because
Mm,
I feel like I'm trying to make up for what I didn't have. And I want to give my kids that presence of being, you know, there in their lives for all of their activities because it's something that I didn't have from my dad. And well, although I did have that from my mom through my high school years, it's still definitely, I think you almost try to now like over overdo it, I guess, versus, yeah, because I want to give my kids what I didn't have
mm,
from that love and that parent. And I think honestly too, um, it's it has made me closer to my kids. And yeah, it just sorry, I'm like stumbling here, but it's yeah, I seeing how my dad kind of just left me behind is how I really feel.
mm.
It's made me want to try to fill that for my boys.
Yeah, so it seems like how it's influenced you is have used this experience of having your father be an alcoholic to give your kids what you wish you had when you were younger,
Yes,
but didn't
exactly.
have. right.
Exactly.
So it's helped you. I mean, in talking with you, I'm really present to the fact that it seems like you're a very conscious parent. You're
Yes.
very, you're really doing this consciously and wanting to be the best parent you absolutely can. Probably because of a fear of not or something, or a fear of it not going that way, and just that acknowledgement of what you wish you had. You don't want to have your kids have to go without that or experience that yourself. For anyone who's an adult right now who has uh who has a parent who's an alcoholic, especially if they were young and in that environment growing up, do you have any advice for them? Because it does bring up a whole world of things that you relate to the world in kind of a different way in some ways, based on that experience. Do you have any advice for them? It can be totally anything at all. I'm curious if you have advice that could be helpful to them.
Yeah. So for, I mean, teenagers that are going through it to young adults, I mean, the advice that I would say, if I was to tell even my younger self, like, it's not that, I don't think that the heartache gets easier, but I think you learn to manage it and that there are pathways that you can choose that don't lead to addiction, that don't lead to the same path as your parent. Um, I think consciously, going back to what you were saying, like a lot of the things that I do, it's almost the opposite of what my dad did because I'm so aware of what he did and the pain that it caused that I am always basing my decisions on what can I do to not have my kids feel that pain or and for me though that pain never fully goes away, like there's still that ache in my heart that obviously I wish that my dad never got into alcohol and we could have continued living this just incredible life that I once knew. But that there are choices and that you can still create such a beautiful life for yourself and your future family, and that that, I mean, choosing alcohol or drugs or whatever other addiction, it ends up not leading to good things, and you end up not only hurting yourself, but you do hurt loved ones in the process of it. And so I just would highly advise to, find other pathways of, if you're feeling frustration or anger, depression, any of those big emotions, to just please seek counsel. If you can, seek help in whatever capacity. And, just know that you do have people that care about you and that they, people want to see you be happy and living your best life. And that, yeah, I mean, it's easier said than done to tell someone to not get into the same, addiction as their parent, especially if that's what they've known. But just know that there are great things out there if you can just choose a different pathway. And um, yeah, I'm trying to think of like again what I would want my younger self to know. I mean, things get better in terms of you do create your own life. Again, you will still always have that part of you, that past. But I think you can create your own beautiful life. I mean, like you were saying earlier, I do. I married my high school sweetheart. We have two beautiful boys. We've created this amazing life together. And, I mean, they are the heart of my life. And um, I could never imagine anything different. And I feel like if I was to choose the path of my dad, I want to get to experience this life with my family that I have now. So know that there is hope, that there is a better pathway. If you do find yourself going, down that path of choosing a substance, please seek help and guidance. And this life is definitely worth living for, and you have a lot to live for. Um,
Mhm.
and you have a lot of people cheering you on, and just, yeah, I would hate to see someone ruin their life or their loved ones as well. So, um, yeah, there's a lot of great things out there still.
Yeah. And that's, thank you for sharing your story both in the book and here today, because when you don't know any different, right, you don't know what you're missing out on either,
Yeah,
right? And you don't know what could be possible for you. And
yeah,
so the fact that you are sharing where it can go to for someone helps them know that, oh, I could create something different,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It could build into this. And so that's very, very, it can give someone an anchor to go to. And in the book itself, we do have some resources. So if you are in a, if anyone is in a stuck place of not knowing where to turn to,
yeah.
there are some resources that they could turn to through the book and get help with. I also want to talk about the creative structure of the book. I think you've created, it's almost like a choose your own adventure type book in a way, in that you have three different stories that are fictionalized, but I mean, they're fictionalized, but they could very well be true, because these are paths that people could go on.
Yeah,
And then you do share in a fourth story your experience of what you lived into and what your life has become.
yeah,
And so it is a creative read, and also it's real, it's very real paths that people could go on. You also have, um it's a bit of a workbook I want to share with people too. There's reflection questions after each path, each section. There's places that people can write and reflect on, which is really nice, so that it's an experiential book. It's not just just stories. It's also like, oh, it can get you thinking about the stories. So I think that's a really creative way that you structured it and brought it together. That's really cool.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, in terms of, I mean, it's fun in the regards of being able to like get creative in that regard.
Mhm.
It was inspired, 'cause as you know, Liz, right? I originally started off with going to share my whole story, like essentially writing an entire book of sharing my whole story from childhood to where I am now. And then I kind of pivoted. One, I think everyone that is a part of this story has their own version of it. And so, I obviously remember what I remember as a kid, and I just didn't want to hurt any of my loved ones by sharing something that maybe they weren't ready for the world, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. And so
It does.
it then pivoted for me to, because I still wanted to get my story out there in a way, or something that just inspired me to let others know that are going through the same thing, that they really are not alone. And so I had this like aha moment of reflecting on this letter that my dad wrote me when he was in rehab, and he was assigned this task, and he actually had to write a letter to both to each of us, so my mom, my brother, and myself, and essentially of saying like, if I don't stop drinking, this is what can happen. And so his letter to me was very much, that's what inspired this. And so it's just, I wanted something that, especially for teenagers that, are going through it, because you're already in your adolescent stages, going through so much emotion. And then when you have, chaos at home, and, that just not feeling like you have this safe space, I and also again just not maybe knowing anything different than substance. And so having them know, like, I wanted to have an easy read, kind of something that kept a teenager engaged, and then that they can reflect back on and write their own thoughts, and hopefully kind of like even like a little journal to get their thoughts down on. And um, so yeah, my stories were inspired by my dad's letter, and then just thinking through like really what can happen if you go down the path of choosing alcohol, and I actually did sprinkle in and I won't say what parts, but I did sprinkle in each story a little bit of what I actually did go through.
Mm,
And then, in addition to actually hearing some real life stories of alcoholics where their chapters, ended in this way too. So it's kind of a mixture, but just wanting to make awareness of how alcohol can affect you, your loved ones, and so it was inspired by a few different things, but mainly my dad's, from obviously my personal story and then my dad's letter.
mhm. And I know a lot of our listeners are writers themselves, or they might want to become writers and do a book of their own. What advice do you have for them? Obviously, what you're writing, very sensitive, right? Very close to heart, very present for you. What advice do you have for someone who is writing something that is like that, that's very, very close and tender to them and their family?
Yeah. I mean, I would say write with what you feel most comfortable with. And if that is sharing your true story from your version, I say then go with that. Again, everyone has their own version. For me personally, I didn't want to share my full story, and I wanted to put it in more of this regard, and to trying to help teenagers. I think also, I wanted an easy read, but I think if you are wanting to share your whole story, I say do it. I think everyone does have a story to share, and that is their story to tell if they would like. And your story can very well help someone else for sure.
Mm,
And so, I think write it and share it with others. And I really do think that you can help other people. And so if you're comfortable with that, I say do it. So
mm,
it's, I think, all about your comfort level. Because I mean, it is scary. I mean, like it is scary to get
yeah.
like your book out there in the world. It's also very exciting. But yeah, I know that you can help people with your story and just
Mhm,
relating to them. So whatever that version is for another author, like don't be afraid and just start. Just and like I did. I
mhm,
literally started writing and then I pivoted, and that's okay. Even if you do
mhm,
start writing and you want to transition to something different, that's perfectly fine too. But yeah, just start writing, and then you'll start to get the feel of what feels right and what doesn't.
mm. I think this is excellent advice because it is right. We do get authority over our story and how much we want to share with the world and have be public. And some at some point it might be helpful to put certain things out there and just get it down for you, right? To have it written for you. And you are sharing personal things in there, so that might feel freeing at some point. But then you also get to pivot and go, you know what I thought I was going to do, I get to change it. I get to do something different. And I think that's a really good example that don't let that fear of putting out or sharing too much or whatever it would be stop you from writing or putting it into a book, because you can certainly pivot and shift to something that feels right and comfortable for you.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
cool. Yeah. So art, depending on when people are listening to this, the ebook may or may not be free. So right now, today, from October 14th through October 18th, 2025, the ebook is free on Amazon. So people can download it, and please download it during this time. You can order the paperback there as well. And Yes, so it's Stories of an Alcoholic's Daughter. You can find it just by searching that by Whitney Jarrard. Anything else you want to share with our listeners before we wrap up today, Whitney?
Just yeah, I mean, if you know of anyone that is going through a hardship of a substance, abuse, or that is living with a parent or going through it themselves, um, I would love for you to share my book, but also just, continue to show your love to them also and help them through this hard time. Um, yeah, I am excited to get my book out there and hopefully be able to help some people. So yeah, it's all I can think of right now. I'm sorry. I'm
That's
getting
perfect.
nervous, but
Thank you so much, Whitney. It's been great to talk with you today.
you too, Liz. Thank you.